Hello everybody, this is Havoc with some pretty exciting leaked news over the weekend. While unconfirmed officially by CA, it looks like a trademark has been filed by Creative Assembly and accepted for Total War Saga Troy, meaning that we potentially have the setting for our next Total War Saga title. With this in mind, today I wanted to do a short video on some speculations I have on the game and what that means for both the historical and fantasy sides of the Total War community. As always, let's dive in. For those that do not know, I wanted to address the scope of a Saga title so you can see if Troy fits that mold. A Saga title has some key features. It is a smaller game, encompassing less newly created features and mechanics and using assets from games in the same time period. This reduces the overall cost to produce the game, ergo the reduced price point as well. It is a time of political, economical, social, and military upheaval, aka every single Total War game anyways. The distinction is that Saga titles have all of these factors in a short period of time in a geographically small area, in which should something had gone differently would have potentially altered history in a drastic way. The first Saga title, Thrones of Britannia, was a fantastic setting to begin the series. Set in England post-Viking invasion, had things gone differently, we would have seen a Viking unified England facing the Normans instead of English, and that potentially drastic alternative history would have been born. In that context, Troy does fit that mold. 12th century Greece and Asia Minor was a violent time period. Greece is just a string of Bronze Age city-states stuck in their part of the world as the Hittites controlled the Aegean Sea. And yet we have an epic derived from the conflict between Greece and Troy, with a loose 10-year siege culminating in the razing of an entire city. Pretty fitting for a Saga title to me. After playing Total War Three Kingdoms and hearing that Troy might be the next saga, I realized that the Iliad, Homer's account of the entire conflict, is essentially Western civilization's Three Kingdoms. Here is a war that is known across the West, with heroes larger than life, involving an absurd amount of characters and schemes. It's an epic of mythological proportions that has at least some grounding in actual historical accounts, even if those historical accounts are significantly more rare than in Three Kingdoms. So it begs the question and speculation, will we get a similar records romance mode set for this game or not? With several hero characters on both sides, and in the Iliad they often faced each other in one-on-one combat, it makes sense to have the romance style and be able to play that out. It is also a great way to tie in the huge influx of Total War players that came in from Three Kingdoms. Having only records mode would certainly cater to the veterans of the series, but I think would limit the scope and audience reach, decreasing the overall potential to reach players on both sides. And if CA has any wits about them whatsoever, they'll not even think of having a romance-only game, especially when catering to the Western world. Both modes make sense in the setting, so hopefully we will see both. With context and modes locked down, the next concern is what platform Creative Assembly is going to develop the game in, as that will directly affect if certain features will be in it or not. I believe that Thrones of Britannia put the nail in the coffin for the Attila platform, God rest its poor troubled soul. That leaves either Rome 2 or Three Kingdoms, and there's justifications for both. CA Sofia, the Bulgaria-based studio Creative Assembly bought back in 2017, has been working on the Saga title, confirmed through a blog update back in the beginning of March. CA Sofia also worked on Rome 2 Empire Divided and developed the last DLC Rise of the Republic. Since its creation, the Sofia team have been working on Rome 2, so it makes sense to bring the familiarity and experience of that platform to this newest game. On top of that, the Rome 2 DLC Wrath of Sparta takes place only 800 years later in the exact same area of the world, but it would obviously be expanded on, blowing it up like they did for England in Thrones of Britannia. The downside is the aged platform itself. Rome 2 is riddled with bugs despite the latest DLCs and has some issues with aspects of battles such as charges and some spear fighting. Since spear combat will be king in this game, that's kind of a big deal. Switch over to Three Kingdoms, and it's a bit obvious why this game could be on the platform. It already has the structure for both romance and records mode. The game performs great overall and has the capacity to take on new features and mechanics with development. Geographically, Greece has some ridiculous terrain types, just like China, and that could be very nicely shown off in the campaign maps and in battles. And let's not forget the diplomacy mechanics in Three Kingdoms. I think Troy will need those just as much as they did in Three Kingdoms, so having the bargaining tools given to us in 3K would be a great use in Troy. The issues with Three Kingdoms are present as well though. Three Kingdoms has some serious dueling problems as listed in a recent Reddit thread. 3K also has some obsessive character personalities that really need addressed and iron out those scripted event occurrences among other things of that nature. Either way, there's room for adaptation. Rome 2 would need to port in mechanics from Three Kingdoms, and Three Kingdoms would need to port in assets and skins from Rome 2. I'd personally prefer the Three Kingdoms platform, or even better yet, an entirely new engine to show off, but it's very unlikely to see that ever happen. The last thing I wanted to quickly speculate about is a sore spot for a majority of the Total War community: naval battles. If Creative Assembly wants to create a game during this time period and in this area, they have to make naval warfare a priority. The Hittites ruled the seas with a very strong navy, and somehow you're going to have to send several armies across the pond to Asia Minor. And just having your armies magically turn into a viable naval fleet like in previous games just won't cut it this time. Naval warfare has never seemed a remote priority to Total War games, except maybe in Empire, so if they truly want to represent the era, they're going to have to do some serious research and figure out how to make naval battles work in this game. Now, after saying all of that, there is of course the possibility that CA is fueling us with fake news. 2 trademarks were actually filed on July 23rd, Total War Saga and Total War Saga Troy. Creative Assembly could easily have filed Troy in an effort to keep the real name at bay until a later date, possibly filing a trademark of the official name only days before it's actually announced. If it is true, it's possible that CA would announce the Saga title at Gamescom, but I'm guessing more towards the end of the year at EGX. That gives the Three Kingdoms DLC enough time to die down, and for the Warhammer 2 content to release and be out in the wild as well. I guess we'll know soon enough. That's all I got for this speculation video. Let me know your thoughts on a Troy setting Saga title in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all things strategy and Total War. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next one.